If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Khalid Mohammed from Command 11. We are back with you tonight with the Command 11 sit rep. This evening, I am joined by my good friend and fellow trouble-seeker, S2. Before we... well, it's true, S2.
I'm fellow trouble finder.
Well, as you seek, you shall find.
Otherwise known as Agent 30-06.
It's like, there we go. We've got a nickname for you now. Before we get started, we want to, S2 and I both from the entire survival dispatch team would like to wish all of our brave men and women who have served in uniform on this Veterans Day, happy Veterans Day. The service you provide for this country, protecting the values and the culture and the nation itself, even though the politicians haven't sided with us in keeping this country safe. It's Veterans Day, and we wish you all happy Veterans Day. Tonight we're going to wrap up the second part of the infiltration series we started last week, and you'll have to excuse me, my voice is a little stuck. I'm coming down with a bit of a flu. I was in the field all weekend, so I've been dealing with cold weather. S2, how are you tonight?
Freezing my ass off.
How cold is it where you are?
It was 46 degrees today. It was 39 last night.
Now you're down to our temperatures. You
killed all my freaking basil plants.
No, we've had a cold patch. I think the highest we've gotten during the day is 50, and at night we're around 20 something. So it's nice and cold. We had a suicide blast today. Yesterday was a blast in India. A lot of people were talking about that. Today, Pakistan got hit. We got our own version of a suicide bomber in Islamabad. So we were all, wrapped up with that. And then we found out that Bangladesh had 11 bombs go off and 3 buses burned today. So, I mean, the entire strip, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh were all one line next to Afghanistan. All of us got attacked in the last 48 hours. So we're wondering if there's a connection somewhere.
That pesky ISI.
Hey. Our ISI is just as bad as your CIA.
I won't disagree.
No, I've worked with the intelligence service on both sides, and we figured out there are no red lines. There's only what we want to achieve. I've done some interesting work for both of the services.
There's only a line in the sand. That's it.
Oh, there's not even a line in the sand. It's kind of like, we won't go beyond this line right now, but, we can cross it if we need to. So it's kind of funny working with the intelligence services because we are, Command 11's always been a clandestine group for the intelligence services. The how do I put it without screwing myself in the statement? We've always been the people that could be plausible deniability. So yeah, we always get the fun tasks.
So, Patriot, we are under siege. I can confirm Chris is in Mar-a-Lago, and we are not going to hear the end of this for at least 6 months.
At least 6 months. I mean, he was plugging last night as well. So, the last time I was in Mar-a-Lago, and I'll be in Mar-a-Lago tomorrow night. But hey, it's good. I mean, Chris asked me earlier. He said, "Is there anybody you want me to say anything to?" And I said, "If you can ask Seb Gorka, what the F is his problem? Why won't he just resign and leave before America gets hit again?
I think
But
that's what I said last week. That and
you
why are we
noticed?
still funding the Taliban?
Forget the Taliban. Did you hear about what happened with Jelani yesterday?
No, I did not.
120 billion in frozen Syrian assets were released yesterday.
Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, last night we were talking about, I said, 9/11 1.0 cost $500,000, $500,000. You are giving the Taliban 40 million a week. And now you've just given the Syrians 120 billion in one shot. 9/11 2.0 just became much, much worse than what we expected it to be.
Well, I guess the Jordanians are going to become our best friends now.
Yeah, the Jordanians have to become our best friends now because we can't trust it. But let's hit the conflicted question, S2, and then we'll roll into our conversation.
Okay, so as per usual, for those of you that are new to the show, the way this works is I read the conflicted question from Conflicted the Game deck, and we want to see your opinions or your answers at the end of the show. At the end of the show, I'll reread the question again, and then we want to see your thumbs up and your like buttons smashed and all that other stuff, and we want to see your comments in the chat. So here we go. Bishop Sorensen aided a man in need, bringing him into his home and caring for his wounds, feeding and clothing him for an extended period of time. How likely are you to spend your time and supplies on helping a complete stranger? What precautions would you take?
Yeah, I'm.
Sleeping
This is
with a
gonna
gun under my pillow comes to mind.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking as well. That was exactly what I was thinking as well. Um, let's get into the fun stuff. Last week, if you were with us last Tuesday, we started talking about the infiltration politics that's going on in the U.S., and that covers everything from political manipulation all the way to radical Islam and left wing radical groups and all the culture wars that are going on. So we said last week before the elections happened, we closed the show last week and said, we're going to talk about this again after the elections happen because we know shit's going to change a lot based on what happens in the elections. And sure enough, the elections changed a lot of things in the U.S. First off, I mean, the biggest thing that was the biggest surprise we had is that most of the people that Donald Trump had endorsed lost the election, and the Democrats and the radical socialists and the radical left were able to pick up more seats than what we expected them to pick up. So that was one shot that we saw that was going to happen. Second, and we're going to talk about this in detail when we get down the line a little bit. The appeasement of terrorists, and I'm specifically talking about what's going on with the Taliban in Afghanistan. And Jelani being invited to the White House yesterday, which was an absolute shock. And I know about the embassy, and we're going to get into that as well, because there's a link between the Taliban and Jelani that we'll cover when we get to that part of it. The last thing we want to bring up, the last thing we're going to talk about in the show is how for the past, well over a year, Sarah, myself, Scott Mann, legend, Shane Healy out of Australia, John Rosmondo, we've all been talking about 9/11 2.0. And all of a sudden, in the past, month and a half, everyone's woken up to there's a terror attack about to happen. There's a terror attack about to happen. There's a terror attack about to happen. It's really surprising that now all of a sudden everyone's woken up. And
They're
there's
just
not much
stealing your shit. They're just stealing your shit is
Well,
all.
even if you're stealing our shit, as to the problem is that you've got maybe if you're lucky 2 months, 2.5 months before this thing kicks off. And it's already started to kick off in some parts of the US, and Europe is just gone. Europe is just it's fucked, for lack of a better word. And we're surprised that people are waking up now. I mean, General Flynn was on Alex Jones yesterday, and he was talking about multiple terror attacks and there's sleeper cells throughout the U.S. And I was scratching my head watching the video, going, "Wow, you were former NSA and you're just realizing this now that this is going on. Where have you been? We've been screaming about this for God knows how long, and
He's
people have
been
now
out
started.
politicking. He's been out politicking.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see Flynn's statement that if Mike Pence runs for president, General Flynn's
Yeah, I saw that. That's such an utter fucking bad idea.
throw another hat in the ring? But sorry, guys, I've got a little bit of a flu kicking in. On top of that, the U.S. has picked up 2 new strategies to deal with the problems that are going on in the U.S. All key members of cabinet, whether it be Secretary of War, Secretary of Homeland Security, FEMA, Director FBI, they've all been moved to military bases for their security, which kind of surprises me as to what you're seeing now that all of a sudden you moved your. And this is very important. The people that have been moved onto bases are your. Are those people you need if the world collapses? They're not the people you would just normally move.
It's the initial steps of continuity of government plan.
Yep. Yep. It's the initial steps. And it's very interesting that all of a sudden they've been moved. So on one side, you've got that strategy running. On the other side, you've got the stupid strategy running, where if we pay the terrorists enough money, we can keep ourselves from going to war, from them attacking us. And I don't know how much you can pay a terrorist for him to give up his jihadi mentality.
Well, there's a couple of other pieces that go along with this whole COG thing. It hasn't been just until the last 4 or 5 years that the exercise. So everybody was putting this shit out on Telegram 5 years ago. There's Blackhawks at the White House. There's Blackhawks landing at the White House. That had never been publicized up until 5 years ago. But that's an annual exercise that they run for evacuation of government personnel.
Yep.
That had not been advertised. They did it again this past year, just after they handed out sat phones to all the members of Congress.
Yep.
So they've known something is coming a lot longer than we've been talking about it.
Yeah. But as to the problem I have with it, and I'm going to approach it from a basic citizen's point of view, that if you know shit's about to hit the fan, why are you not preparing the citizens? Because if you know it's coming, then at least tell your people, listen, it would be a good idea if you started stocking up food. It'd be a good idea if you started doing this. It'd be a good idea if you started doing this, like we've been doing for the past 3 or 4 months.
Well, they actually have been. I mean, in some of the cities in the United States, they actually have been. Like in Colorado, they ran and in New York, they ran mass casualty exercises with the emergency responders up there.
Yep.
They've been doing that for the last 2-3 years. In fact,
Okay.
we've had some of our Team America folks that had infiltrated those exercises.
Okay.
Because they were hiring people to be crisis actors and be victims.
Interesting. But have they reached a level where they're confident in the mass casualty events? Because everything I see going on right now is you're headed towards. I said this to Chris the other day. I said, you are headed towards what looks like an extinction event. It's not a war in the terms of war. It's almost like America and Europe is getting ready for what would be an extinction event, where that either you're going to lose your civilization or you're going to lose your country, one of the two. And it's just really surprising to me that it's being kept so hidden that you would figure more citizens would know about it. More people you would be running inside your hospitals. You'd be regularly running mass casualty events. That trauma happens. What do you do? How do you handle it? Do you have the supplies on board? But these 2 strategies that have been running, they've got me thinking that maybe they know something's about to happen, but they don't want to say anything because panic will take over and people start complaining. Look what happened. Look what happened. Look what happened.
Well, if you think about what happened during COVID, where everybody went out and they started panic buying. Imagine, so COVID was something that everybody was just like, oh yeah, okay, well 2 weeks is okay, 2 weeks is not too bad, and then 2 weeks went to 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks went to a month, and then 2 months, and it was never ending. So the government has always taken this standpoint that, well, we don't want to panic anybody. Me
Right.
personally, I think it's just the second coming of Space Jesus.
Yeah, 3i. I mean, do you think 3i is
No, when I say Space Jesus, that's kind of an inside joke for me. I've read a lot of, I've done a lot of research into Bluebeam and all of the technology and everything,
right?
and I think that that's one of the things that they might try to pull is to do a holographic representation because they can do the skull to or the voice to skull technology from a distance. They've got the back then it was the cloud lasers that they could use to do the holographic images. That technology has advanced so far forward now, it's unreal. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff they do with these lasers nowadays.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That we're seeing way too much weird stuff happening now. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any other word for it other than to call it weird stuff because I don't know how many people are following us on the live chat and on the Command 11 handle. We posted 2 hospitals that were attacked in Germany yesterday. Um, Bomb attacks on the entrances and on specific departments inside the hospitals. Um, Everything we said was going to happen is happening, and the more you pay attention, the more you start understanding it, you're going to be more and more wondering how in the hell we knew what was going to happen. Um, I
Well,
remember back in
everybody needs to be paying attention to the patterns that
yeah,
are playing out in Europe right now. You start looking at what their strategies are for entrance into these hospitals, what they do when they get inside of these hospitals, because it will be a second replay. I'm
yeah,
also of the mind that October 7th was a dry run.
it was a dry run. That's already known. October 7th was the dry run for 9/11 2.0. But if you come, I'll even roll you backwards. If you watch what's going on in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India, um, what you see happening here in this part of the world is where the methodologies, the tactics are all being tested. Once they
Hmm.
get them perfected on our side of the world, then they move to Europe. They do them in Europe. Once they make them successful in Europe, then they move to the US to get to say, okay, now we've got this figured out. This is how you do it. This is what happens. Like, I'll give you example, and I still don't completely buy the whole story. India claimed that they caught a doctor roughly 5 days ago who was processing racine chemical weapons. Then they said they found another doctor who had 350 kilos of explosives with him. Then they found another doctor that had 2,900 kilos, which is right around 3 tons of RDX with him. India is afraid of a chemical attack, and this was all Al Qaeda Islamic Indian subcontinent, AQIS. And no matter how much you try and point it towards Pakistan, all of the people that they caught were part of that terror group. So they're testing stuff on our side of the world. And I remember back in May when we said in our threat assessment, we said, they're going to potentially use chemical weapons. Everyone turned around and said, you're nuts, you're crazy. There's no way this is going to happen. There's no way this is going to happen. And we turned around and said, listen, you guys can say there's no way it's going to happen, but we know what's going on inside of Afghanistan. And
How many
it's,
times do things have to happen for people to stop saying it can't happen here?
well, the problem is that in the US, I don't mean this in a nasty way, but the US thinks that they live a very sheltered life. Shit can happen in Europe, shit can happen in the Middle East. It's never going to make it to the US borders. And that was the mentality before 9/11. And that mentality exists again. People have forgot. And the problem is the generation that lived through 9/11 is too old to be listened to by anyone.
Well, actually, CIA had information about 9/11 before it happened, but because they were in a dick measuring contest with FBI, they didn't trade that information over to the FBI. So the
Yeah.
FBI, they could have all the plausible deniability they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's the same thing with the arrest that happened, the FBI arrest that happened in Dearborn and in New Jersey. You didn't share that information, you idiots. If you'd shared that information with intelligence services, you would have wrapped up the people they were coordinating with in Syria, in Turkey, in Iraq. You could have taken down a major cell. But because you no longer have that level of cooperation, because I really have a problem with Kash Patel, to be honest. I really have a problem with Kash Patel, but we'll get into that because Kash, put an end to Five Eyes by screwing over MI5. And the US is out of the Five Eyes group, and we'll get into that as well. But let's do this because you and I can talk.
That's a good thing.
We'll get into that. Hold on, we're gonna get into this. let's run through a couple of these links that are gonna help us set up for the show. Because I just want to get a few things out into people's knowledge before we get into our conversation. Nick, if you want to bring up the link with Ron DeSantis telling us about the wonderful new mayor of New York.
Night he wins this big victory. He is a Marxist. He also obviously is an Islamist as well, which is increasingly becoming hat in hand around the world. And then a couple days later, down in Florida, we've established November 7th as a day to remember the victims of communism. That's the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. And so I have people who have fled communism, and they say, you know what? Those promises remind me of what Castro was selling back in the day. I remember these guys trying to say that. And then what happened to this great island? It became a communist prison. And so we're working hard in Florida to educate our kids about the evils of Marxism and Leninism. And yes, there's less freedom, less opportunity. Mark, there's 100 million dead in the 20th century as a result of Marxism, Leninism. We know his program is going to fail. People have promised this stuff in the past. They've attempted this stuff in the past, and it has failed. And I can tell you, if you are somebody in the NYPD, are you going to want to wear that uniform and risk your life for a mayor that hates you and hates your agency and doesn't think your agency can exist? So I think the economics is going to be terrible, but I think the crime is going to go up, and I think people are going to run for the hills.
He's on. I mean, S2, did you see that as soon as Mamdani was elected, a lot of the New York City police officers said, okay, we're leaving New York. We'll get jobs in the suburbs. We'll get jobs in New Jersey, but we're not working for this guy.
Oh, it's even worse than that. There are several trucking companies out there that have committed to canceling and not taking any contracts for deliveries into New York City.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's what a lot of people don't realize yet. Mamdani does not possess the authority to do half of the shit he wants to do.
Yep. I know.
And he's already finding out. He's already finding out. Here's another thing that a lot of people aren't aware of. He's not mayor yet.
Nope.
He might have, quote unquote, in air quotes, won his election, but the counting has not been finalized yet. His election is not certified.
Yeah, it's what December when they finally finish the counting on.
Yeah.
Because I remember as soon as he was elected, everyone said, "Whoa, wait a minute, he's still not mayor yet because the counting isn't done yet."
Yeah, I put that out the other day. But yeah, it's and there's also stuff going on in there's a lot of stuff going on in New York and New Jersey right now with regard to those elections. But to my point, Mamdani can't do half of the stuff that he says he's going to do. He can't do the free buses thing. Hochul already told him there was something else that she wasn't willing to back. But here's the funny thing. She backed everything he said while he was running for his election. And now she's telling him, no, you can't do that. Or I'm not going to do
Yeah, but S2, that was a good play. I mean, as long as you say, yeah, you can do that. You can do that. It's a good idea. You get a guy into office that you literally have screwed into the wall. because he's made promises that he can never deliver on. I mean, free grocery stores. I mean, are you kidding? Free grocery.
Where's it going to come? Where's the food going to come from?
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for it? I mean, it's the same old story that it's always been. We're going to have free grocery stores, but we're going to tax the shit out of you to pay for it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what New York is getting ready for now is the crazy taxation, because the number of people that have been saying we're moving to Florida, we're moving to this state. It's just
the next thing,
New York City collapse.
The next thing you'll start seeing is they're talking about doing land or seizing land and doing redistribution of wealth. So they will do that by regulation. So what he can do, if he has any influence over the city council in New York City, is he can have them start changing code regulations. And then they can start going to all of these landlords and saying, your building doesn't meet code spec. You have to fix this and make the repairs so costly that the landlords can't afford to do that, so they don't do it. Well, then what they end up doing is they start fining the landlords. Yep. And they'll fine them out of existence until they finally end up taking over their properties. So yeah, New York, this was a really fucking smart move, guys. Yeah, you should have elected a communist. That was a really good idea.
Yeah, $1.7 trillion economy is what New York generates, and you brought in a communist that's just going to destroy your economy now.
I would dare say that Wall Street will probably move to Texas.
I would recommend it, to be honest. To be very honest, look to every New Yorker watching us right now. Get the hell out of New York City before Mamdani becomes mayor, because what he's going to do with the city of New York is, you're not going to recognize New York once he comes into office. And my fear is that this guy is such an untested idiot that he's going to make Obama look like a king compared to what Mamdani is going to try and pull off in New York. Because Obama is the same.
He's going to make Kamala look like a genius.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's saying a lot. Kamala looking like a genius. But if you remember, when I don't know if you saw the coverage on the different channels, Fox News ran on election night. They were running coverage. They said just one borough of New York. I think they were talking about the Bronx. They said that there are 2.5 million people, 160 languages are spoken in the borough of New York of the Bronx. Sorry, no, Queens. I'm sorry, my correction. It was Queens they were talking about. 2.5 million people, 48% of people moving in of immigrants living in the borough, and 160 different languages spoken among 2.5 million people. That's who won the election for Mamdani. It wasn't New Yorkers. It was these immigrants that were very carefully, very selectively moved into the city of New York to change the demographic. And that's who got Mamdani elected. It's not.
Well, there was even another statistic. There was even another statistic thrown out there that said 80% of the people that voted for Mamdani had not lived in the state of New York for 5 years.
Yep, I saw that statistic. I saw that statistic as well. I saw that as well. And plus, on top of that, did you see that the video of the guy who said, "I'm now voting for the 6th time today for Mamdani because New York doesn't require an ID of any kind"? I was like, "Holy crap!"
Well, the whole thing about them being on the ballots twice, that there is a serious challenge going on right now with the New York State Board of Elections over that. Because because here's the thing. Election machines can be programmed. We already know that, but the ballot counting machines can actually be programmed. So they have what's called an alignment character on ballots that you have to, that this is what they use to calibrate the machines with. So on every ballot, there is one of those alignment characters that are on there. Those machines can be programmed to look in a specific position on that page. And then based on that, it could say, this is the only vote that I see.
Yep.
So there's a serious lawsuit going on right now over this. I think Naomi Wolf's actually involved in that too.
Yeah. But what do you think about Mamdani's first trip being to Puerto Rico? I mean, what was the point of that?
AO's going to visit AOC's grandma. I don't know.
I knew you were gonna end that way.
I went to
But
visit her abuela.
this whole election, S2, I mean, we had so many foreigners come in this last election. Nick, if you can pop up the Indian slide for us. Indians won a lot of seats. I mean, Ghazala Hashmi became the first elected lieutenant governor of Virginia. Aftab Pervel became the mayor of Cincinnati, and Mamdani won in New York. That's three Indians that have moved into power. And
Mamdani's not an Indian.
He is. Mamdani is Indian, quote unquote. He claims he's Indian.
He claims he's Ghana.
No. Okay, let me tell you the story on Mamdani, and this slowly came out. His father was an Indian. His mother is an Indian. Then his mother is separated from her father, married a Jew, and that's her current husband. Mother is filthy rich. Father is filthy rich. So when Mamdani is talking about socialism, I don't know how being a family from a multi-millionaires, how do you think you can be a socialist when you're set on cash and you're telling everyone else, okay, you're going to live with, we own everything and you guys get what we give you and what we want to give you. Well, but the lead in on this, go ahead, Stu.
That's the age-old story and the playbook of every single communist dictator in the history of communism. There were always some spoiled rich kid that came up and played this and somehow decided that it was going to be a good idea to play victim for some reason. Yeah. I don't know how they arrive at this. I really don't.
Well, victim works. I mean, if you think about it, victim works. And anywhere in the world when you look, I mean, if you play victim for long enough, people start believing it. Look at Hamas. Hamas has played victim. Now you have every liberal U.S. university where the Qataris have spent so much money. You've got them funding what is the Hamas freedom fighters when the Hamas is actually a terror group.
Like I said, I don't know what goes through these kids' heads when they wake up one morning and say, "I think I'm going to be a communist victim today." I just what did you forget to take your stupid pills overnight or something?
No, we talked about this last night. There has been an actual proper move in making people dumber and more malleable by media and more malleable by stupid people so they can become useful idiots.
Hey, I want to respond. I want to respond to Shannon. Shannon, if you heard what I said every communist dictator. Karl Marx was not a dictator. He was not in a position of leadership per se within a government.
He wrote the book on communism.
Yeah, him and Engels.
Yep. But it to me, I am seeing, and I read a book. The purposeful dumbing down of America. And if you remember back when we were kids, S2, there was a different standard for us when we were in school. If you look at kids today, oh my God, if I was in school right now and I was working from that education level, I'd be I'd be an A+ student in every one of my classes, because the level of stupidity that exists in our classrooms now, you are preparing people just to be useful idiots. You're not preparing thinkers. You're not preparing leaders. You are preparing followers, and that's it.
Yep. Exactly right. It all starts with the participation trophy.
Yep. Oh my God, the participation. I'm not even get started on that one yet. I brought up the Indians for a specific reason. Donald Trump, and I don't understand what Trump is doing. Donald Trump, for governor of Ohio, has endorsed Vivek. And Vivek is someone who is very pro H-1B. He is an Indian himself. I'm sorry, Indian American himself. And to endorse this guy who has flat out said that America, what was the phrase he used? Hold on a second. Who flat out said that the American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence. And Donald Trump has put this guy as the candidate that MAGA is supporting for governor. I on one side you have the terrorists, on the other side you have the lefties, and then you have the Indians that are coming in, and they are literally taking over. It's a very silent revolution that the Indians are carrying out, and they're using H-1B and L-1 visas to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he would have to be a step up over the pedophile cover-up expert DeWine.
Yeah, but again, someone who look as to if you think about the number of people that are in the U.S. On H-1B visas, the vast majority are Indians, and those Indians are coming in to take American jobs at half the rates.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on from that.
Are we not in the mood to piss off India tonight?
Yeah. That horse is dead.
Well, you may think it's dead, but I think something's coming from that side as well. Let's move on to Virginia. We got a former CIA spook that has come into power. I brought this up with a couple of my friends in the CIA, and I'm gonna just throw this out there. They said for her to spend 6 years with the CIA, that's not even enough time for her to complete all of her training. So for her to be talking about clandestine work she did with the CIA, a lot of people are saying that she didn't have enough time to get into clandestine work. She may have done one tour someplace, but by the time she completed all of her training, she would be in her 4th or 5th year.
She was a John Brennan DEI hire, is what she was.
Now that makes things interesting. Then you add on top of that S2, and if you can pop, Nick, if you can pop the second slide where she was, no, the slide after this one, yeah. After she left the CIA, she joined a company called EAB Global. EAB Global is a DC-based consultancy and software development company that works specifically with educational institutions, K through 12, colleges and universities. When Abigail joined EAB Global, she generated $15 million in contracts. And my problem with questionable CIA spooks that move into the private sector and bring a lot of money, she was also connected with the Saudi Academy, Islamic Saudi Academy, before she joined the CIA. There are some ties here that we need to be really worried about. And the less that we can figure out about her and the less that we can verify about her makes for a lot of questions for me.
Oh, I got some more for you. You ready for this one?
Go for it.
She took $50,000 from a very well-known businessman and also a buyer of Hunter Biden's artwork, who has deep ties to the CCP.
Really?
Really?
Oh, now that makes things.
She took payments in April and May. They were spread out into 2 separate payments for her campaign of $25,000 each.
Oh, that's interesting. So we may actually have another CCP plant, another Gavin Newsom that could be coming into play.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that she was a John Brennan DEI hire. I wasn't kidding when I said that. She was a very close follower of John Brennan. And in fact, some of the things that she has said John Brennan wrote in a book that he wrote called Undaunted. The title's much longer than that, but Undaunted. Uh, we'll just call it that for now. But yeah, she was around then, and there have been conflicting reports about what she was doing in the CIA. One said
Yeah,
she was a CIA operations specialist. The other one said she was a CIA case handler. And
yeah,
those two titles are not one and the
very
same.
different. They're very different. They are
Yeah,
very different.
yeah. So she speaks four, maybe five languages. Speeches Spanish, French, German, and some other language I can't remember. Um, but the fact that she speaks three out of those four languages that are over in or near Europe is very lead telling that she was actually doing a lot of her work over in Europe.
Yeah, yeah. But I see. I heard the same thing. I heard that she was working in Europe a lot. But my problem is, and this is, I
Well,
don't know
she
how to
was in
phrase.
she was in charge of recruiting spies, according to some of the information I've seen.
That's what I've
um,
heard as
or
well.
or or, do, or as they put it nicely, developing relations with people in other countries for the purposes of counterterrorism and anti-nuclear proliferation.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. But I mean, if you look at the, and I need to say this very carefully because I don't want to get in trouble with the intelligence agencies again. When you have a spook that ends up in government, and their background cannot be verified, you can't even get a base understanding of what their background was. That creates a lot of questions for me, because I don't know what you're doing in government. And then you combine her with Jay Jones, who's now who's been elected AG of Virginia as well. You are talking about a very dangerous combination there. When you have a governor and an AG that you can honestly say are hostile towards certain beliefs that the American people have.
Well, the transgender thing is a big thing for her. Apparently, it was a big thing for John Brennan too,
Yeah,
um, because they claimed that they were supporting this because the people in the LGBTQ, whatever letter it is this week, community had a unique approach at looking at things and being able to exchange ideas. So they're both very supportive of that air quotes community within the CIA. So that demographic, as they put it, is very pervasive in the CIA.
yeah.
It's not as small as you think it is, or as small
Well,
as other people would think it is.
just a question as to, I mean, with all the DEI hires that Obama and Otto Penn did, um, do you really think that the CIA is still an intelligence service and not a cultural revolution organization?
Um, I think them being a counterculture revolution organization it's a feature. It's not a
Yeah,
bug.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a feature of what they really are. If we want to really start delving into things, we can start talking about Operation Gladio, which is a whole other fucking rabbit
Yeah.
hole.
Oh
Because the
my God,
CIA, the CIA is way down in Operation Gladio, and I
Gladio
believe that
is,
Gladio is still in operation right now.
yeah, it is. Gladio's still definitely. So is Mockingbird.
Hmm.
Mockingbird is also still in operation. That a lot of people don't know how much crap the CIA has done and what is still in play. But Gladio, you and I could do at least 3 episodes just on Gladio. I mean, literally, we could do 3 episodes
Oh,
without
oh
doubt
no,
on
I have a friend out on X that's all she does. Colonel Towner.
counter.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's all she focuses on is that.
yep.
And
But
she's been doing this for like a couple years now. So you're not going to wrap this up in 3 episodes.
no, I mean, when you look at it, Mockingbird's still in play. MK Ultra is still in play. Gladio is still in play. These operations were never wrapped up by the CIA. They were just quieted down, but they have now kicked up again, and we're seeing it, and we are seeing it in a big way. Europe has been their playground right now. and they're slowly moving back into the US, slowly moving back into the US. And I'm waiting to see when it's actually going to blow up again in the US, because these operations are not done yet.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I think what's gone on with Britain and not exchanging intel with MI5 or MI6 anymore, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Well, okay, I'm going to pick up from the New York Times story. The New York Times said that Patel was upset that there were members of MI5, MI6 that were involved in Russiagate, and that's why Kash Patel ended the relationship with Five Eyes. My problem with that statement is, if you look at every intelligence agency, all of them have played dirty with you in some way. Just like the CIA has played dirty with every country, every intelligence agency has played dirty with you as well. That's not a reason to end intelligence sharing among 5 countries that need to be talking to each other, especially at this point in time. You need to be talking to each other, because there are so many threats and so many things happening in different countries in the world that if you're not listening to what Australia is telling you, you don't know what's going on in the Far East. If you're not listening to what England's telling you or what Germany's telling you, you're not covering Europe properly. I'm almost going, maybe Kash Patel made a very stupid decision there by getting out of Five Eyes. And I do want your feedback on this, because Five Eyes was something that was crafted for this reason of sharing intelligence with each other. Pulling out of Five Eyes, I think, puts the U.S. at a very significant risk level.
Well, the decision wasn't his to end that relationship. That was Trump's decision.
Yeah, that I know as well.
Because of what they did to him with his speeches, with the propaganda they've been spreading with him. And let's face it, it's the intelligence community that's doing all of this within the media. The only way that you stop that from happening is you stop feeding them with information, so that they can't come up with a narrative that they can use to propagandize people. To an extent, I understand that. Trump is doing the same thing that he's been doing with everybody else. He is beating their ass into submission until they say, "Okay, we'll play nice now." And the only way to do that is to, yeah, I know. Um, Shannon Grady, S2, but can't we just take our ball and go home? Um, but yeah, it's I think it was Trump's decision to do that. It wasn't Kash Patel's decision to do that. Kash Patel was just the messenger.
I agree with that, but S2, look, Five Eyes is Germany, France,
Australia.
UK, Australia, the US, and there's another country in Five Eyes. These 5 countries are basically your regional heads.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. While you're there, we've named off all of them.
Yeah.
Do you think, for a minute, that every single one of those countries doesn't have somebody in the UK?
Of course they do.
Then why do we need the UK? Why do we need to be communicating with MI5?
Look, MI5, again, I come back to the understanding. If you start thinking about what Five Eyes does, and Five Eyes is only one piece of it. There's 5 Eyes, there's 11 Eyes, there's 15 Eyes.
Yeah.
This is all built as a tier system. When you start saying that we're not going to be part of an intelligence sharing network, you either have to have ground intel of your own that you can work off of, or you've got to trust your partners. And just because the BBC fucked up and they ran a campaign, and let's be honest, nobody trusts the BBC anyway. The BBC is the most tainted media organization in the world. BBC is the American version of CNN, other than being government owned.
Actually, I think they're closer to ABC.
Okay, I haven't watched ABC in a while.
That is old.
CBS, I haven't watched in a while, so I compare everybody CNN and Fox and these networks. But BBC is state owned, and Keir Starmer is an idiot. David Lammy was on a radio show the other day in the UK, and a British citizen called up and said, "I don't understand how you can call yourself British. You were born in X country and you're not British. How in the hell are you calling you?" And on live radio is undressing him. No, you're not Irish. You're not this. You're not this. How are you calling yourself British? The UK has been taken over. It has literally been taken over.
But that's my
And
point. That's my point, though, is if you have people from other trusted partners within the Five Eyes community, you know they have people on the ground there. Why do you need to start trading information back and forth with corrupt MI5, just like our CIA has been corrupt at all levels?
yeah,
Why do you need that? You have you have boots on the ground with these other countries having assets there in the first place.
true, true. Well, let's see what happens. Doherty, I love
Yeah,
Monty Python.
we'll revisit this next week.
Yeah, we will come back to this because look, there these things are really interesting to me. These things are really interesting to me because you've got to the moves that are happening right now. Look, America and Europe right now are literally in the threat matrix. They're about to be attacked. The more you start alienating old friends, and America and the UK have always considered themselves as cousins, and I've always been pissed off with that statement because the US and the UK are nowhere near being cousins. Not even second, not even third cousins. And the UK is
We're still under a king's rule.
yeah, that's the thing. You're still under king's rule, and I don't understand what I've got to be really careful when I say this.
So I want to go back to this Abigail Spanberger thing here because there's some other dots that I want to connect here also. So
Okay.
Mickey Sherrill in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know where Abigail Spanberger was born?
New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have another member of Congress that's already holding office, who was also in the CIA, Elise Slotkin.
Slotkin's from New Jersey, or is she from a different state? Is she elected from a different state?
She is from Michigan. But the point that I'm making is that we have some CIA dots that we're connecting here.
There's a
We
lot
have
of secret people.
we now have a governor that was a CIA agent. We have a member of Congress that was a CIA agent, and we have Abigail Spanberger, who was born in New Jersey. Mickey Sherrill was just elected. I forget what senator or something. She was just elected there from
Yeah.
New Jersey. So
Yeah.
there's some dots here that we're connecting.
Again, I was going to come back to that next week because I didn't want to jump full into the intelligence side of it yet, because a lot of people don't know what's going on. The takeover that's happening, a lot of people still haven't figured out what's going on because no one back when you and I were active in understanding what was going on. I mean, we used to dig into people and figure out what their backgrounds were, where they've worked. If they smelled like intelligence, we dig in and figure out what the hell they were doing in the intelligence world. Now no one pays attention. They just go, oh yeah, I like this person, I like this person, I like this person, and all of a sudden once they come into office, they no longer like what kind of decisions they make. And there is a takeover going on, and it really bugs me. But I want to, before we
Do you know what Abigail Spanberger was also in charge of?
What?
The Committee for National Intelligence.
Oh, and that was under Brennan.
I don't remember when that was, but that was when she was in Congress.
Just a question for you, S2. Just a question. Why have we not arrested Brennan yet?
Once again, as I've said this a lot, because I believe they're trying to get all of the co-conspirators. They're trying to get them all into the same room at the same time.
Right.
And they need to build this airtight case for this. I think if they get Brennan in there, Brennan's not going to spill anything, but all roads are going to lead back to Obama once they get everybody else. There was something else too about there's another guy who's looking to take Spanberger's spot that's running. He's one of the Vindman brothers.
Spanberg's spot where? As governor or as?
So, as not as governor, but take her Senate seat in Virginia,
Okay.
Eugene Vindman, who is Robert Vindman, Robert Vindman's brother. And
Yeah.
there was something I recall about the Russia hoax where Robert Vindman was involved in that. I could be wrong. I'm not writing. I didn't write any of this stuff down. I'm playing up based off what I remember reading.
No, I do remember Vindman's name being tossed around in Russiagate.
Yeah. So
But I
Eugene
don't
Vindman,
remember.
his brother, is looking to take the spot that uh, Abigail Spanberger just left.
Okay. Interesting. Shannon says Robert Vindman testified.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that I do remember hearing Vindman's name in the Russiagate scandal. I just don't know how deeply he was involved in the whole thing coming together.
Just connecting dots.
Well, we're gonna spend a lot of time connecting dots because when you start letting this waterfall happen and you start putting the pieces together, you start seeing where the infiltration is coming from and how the infiltration was put in place years before where we are right now, and how it's now coming to it. It's like when you plant a sapling and you keep watering it, keep watering it, keep watering it, and it turns into a tree. We're at the tree level right now, and someone's got to chop down the damn tree before it starts polluting the forest. Um, but
I prefer to put it in
that's
a wood chipper.
well, the wood chipper is the better way, but I'm gonna hit Jolani and then we're gonna pick back up. Um, your thoughts before I get into it. Jolani came to and you and I have gone over this so many times. Jelani came to the White House the other day, and I still don't understand why they still allow him in the U.S. Um, Donald Trump said, he's a strong guy. I really like him. He's had a rough background, but all of us have had a rough background. And you basically spat on everyone who fought in the war on terror. You spat on everyone who has fought against terrorism ever since the war on terror. Um, and then you turned around and you handed him $120 billion in frozen CIA, in frozen Syrian assets. And on top of that, and the biggest problem I have is you gave them embassies in the US. And I was screaming about this before, and I think you might remember. I was screaming about this before that if you give either Afghanistan, because Afghanistan, in return for Bagram, wanted their embassies and consulates handed back over to them. And now you've given Syria an embassy in the US. You have just given them a command and control center for 9/11 2.0. And if you don't think that's true, you're going to see how much shit is run through that embassy. I know a lot of people are talking about 3D chess, that Trump is playing 3D chess, keeping his enemies close and keeping an eye on them. But you cannot keep this kind of you cannot keep a rabid dog close to you and think it's not going to bite you.
No, but you can carry a big stick and beat the crap out of it.
Yeah, but we haven't pulled out the big stick, S2. I mean, look at what we're doing with the Taliban. I mean, you are literally coddling them, and there's
something more at play here than what we know.
yeah, but okay, look, the US is very good at laying out ideas and trying to implement them, but these terrorists have developed an objective and they want to achieve something. And their achieving that is more important than anything that the US is talking about right now. Because they are pissed off. This is retribution for them.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Honestly, I don't. You look at it at face value. It's one of those things where you sit there and you look at a math problem for a couple of hours and you still can't figure it out. You just eventually have to walk away from it and turn your back on it. And then as things start to unfold later on, then the equation starts to make sense, or at
Yeah.
least it brings you to a conclusion. And I have not come to any conclusion about this whatsoever, particularly with releasing How much in frozen Syrian assets? 50 billion?
120 billion dollars.
Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, Laura Mounier in the chat makes a very good point. Does Trump know everything about Giuliani? Bringing
I
him
don't know how
in
you
on
can.
Marine Birthday, Veterans Day is offensive.
Not only that, it's an absolute insult to every soldier who fought. I mean, I looked at it that way, that you have just insulted every GWAT vet, because this guy was fighting against American soldiers while they were inside of Iraq and inside of Syria, and you have just brought him to the U.S. and honored it. Al Qaeda and the Islamic State are laughing and congratulating themselves on the coup that they have pulled off right now.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any conclusions that I can draw out of this. I know Trump's not stupid, and based on that fact, I know that there's got to be something else going on that is not being revealed yet.
Yeah, but as to, again, this goes back to my 3D, 4D chess conversation a lot of people have on Trump. If you've got bad advisors sitting around you, it affects how you play the game.
Yeah, this
Trump
isn't 3D.
is very smart.
This isn't 3D, 4D chess. Everybody thinks the 3D, 4D chess thing is a thing. It's not. Okay,
No,
look for the simplest answer. Don't look for the most difficult answer.
yep,
And that's something I don't have all of the puzzle pieces yet to be able to say I know what's going on, or I think I know what's going on.
yeah,
Other
yeah.
other than to say I would rather keep my enemies close.
Well, I understand it, but let me take you through the progression of Giuliani. Giuliani was picked up by the UK. They had a NGO in the UK called Intermediate, who connected him with the UK government, and they started rebuilding his image. This was after he took over Syria. Then he became very friendly with the UK and with Europe and with the EU, and he started generating funds. Erdogan, and this should be a big trigger, Erdogan and Prince Salman in Saudi Arabia worked together to get Giuliani and Trump in a room together in Saudi Arabia. And Erdogan was on the phone call when Giuliani was in the room. Then we turned around and the UK lifted all the sanctions against him as a terrorist. Then the UN was lobbied to remove him from the special terrorist list the UK maintains. Oh, sorry, the UN maintains. And then Donald Trump turned around and said, "Okay, now it's our turn." And before Giuliani came to the US, you lifted the sanctions on him, you repealed the Caesar Act, and you opened up the door for Giuliani to get access to all of the funds that Syria had frozen in the US and anywhere else in the world. At the same time, you are talking about Nigeria and Christians being slaughtered there and sending US troops there. But you have nothing to say about the Christians that are being slaughtered in Syria by this same Giuliani and his military. That's not even a point of conversation. This is where I get stick. This is where I get stuck.
So
On
let me
one
ask a
side,
question. Let me go ahead with your statement, but I've got a question for you when you're done.
when you can threaten Nigeria with US troops and cutting aid because of the slaughter of Christians, but you will not do the same thing to Syria, who is openly doing it. Druze, Christian, they have burned down. While Giuliani was at the UN just a few weeks ago, they were burning down Christian villages with Christians in the village. Not one word. You are coddling a known terrorist, and then you're threatening Nigeria for the same thing that known terrorist is doing. For me, Trump is getting bad advice, and I mean really bad advice, because you're threatening a country, and this is where my question comes in. Nigeria has lithium. Are you threatening Nigeria over the lithium? Or are you threatening because they're killing Christians? But go ahead, Esther. You had a question.
So you mentioned an organization's name a few minutes ago, or a few
Yeah,
seconds ago.
yeah.
you have NATO and the United Nations.
Yep.
Everything that I'm seeing so far has to do with countries that are part of the United Nations.
Yeah.
And it's a known fact that the United Nations helped fund all of these invasions of all of these countries that have illegals pouring into their countries. Do you think for a minute that perhaps Trump is negotiating with all of these other UN nations outside of the UN to tear down the United Nations and to get all of these to form a coalition against the UN?
Well, to be really honest, S2, I think the UN should be abolished
But that
6 years.
but you see where I'm going with this.
I do.
Look at
I
all
do.
look at all of the people that he's negotiating with. They're all UN nations.
Yeah.
And all of these things that are going on, if he can get them to be part of this coalition against the United Nations and get all of these people to leave the United Nations. So the United States is one of the biggest funders of the UN.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we pull out of the UN and he can take all of these other countries with him, the UN dies.
Yeah.
This is retribution for the illegal invasions of our country. That's what this
Oh,
is.
I agree with that, but here,
That is a conclusion that I think I can come to safely based on what I know.
well, look, I would agree with you because Trump has already said that he's pissed off with the UN. He wants the UN to be gone. I mean, if you remember when he first came into office, I think it was in the second month or the third month of his presidency. He said the UN is a useless organization and that the UN needs to be abolished.
He said it to their face. He said it to their face. He said it to their face.
Yep. In the UN, he said it. But look, my problem with the UN is it is toothless. It is useless. All they do is pass paper. They cannot do anything else. And
Well, it's not. It's obviously not toothless because of what they did. They were able to accomplish this whole worldwide orchestrated thing. They did this.
yeah,
It
but I
wasn't.
don't think it was the UN. I don't think it was the UN.
It
I
it
think
was
it
the UN.
member
It's proven.
countries that did it. I think it was
It
UN member countries that did it, not the UN itself.
it was proven that the UN helped fund it.
Well, funding's got to come from somewhere, as to. I mean, not every one of these countries has the money to carry off some of the things that they've been
The
doing.
point is everybody at the UN is a bunch of fucking thieves. That's the
Agreed.
point that I'm making. So
Agreed.
they take money from us and these other countries out there, and then they attack us with those resources.
Yep.
I think
they
this
do.
is what's at play here.
Well, if you remember, I mean, I don't know how many people have read the document. The UN wrote a paper on migration warfare. The UN wrote a paper on migration warfare. So I mean, it's not what you're saying. Doesn't it rings true with me? Because when you look at everything the United Nations has done or thought about doing, the UN has been very closely tied with the globalists. And when you look at everything they're trying to achieve, that's not good for any country in the world. Not good for any country in the world. Just like the IMF is no good for any country in the world. You're taking money from very wealthy countries, investing into poor countries that you know can never pay that money back.
Mm-hmm.
So the UN, I agree with you on what you're saying, but my belief is the UN should have been shut down 6 years ago because everyone knows how useless the United Nations is. It needs to go.
Look at the WHO. Look at the WHO. The WHO was also a co-conspirator in this. Okay, Tedros and all of his little asshole buddies. When we withdrew from the WHO, and now they're out here basically standing on the street with a tin cup like an organ grinder monkey, begging people for money. So I think this is honestly, I think if we can accomplish this with the UN, NATO's next. Because I'm going to tell you another thing too. You know where Abigail Spanberger also holds a passport?
Where?
Brussels.
Yeah, I knew about the Brussels. I had heard about the Brussels. I had just had
It's in Brussels. What's in Brussels?
The NATO is. But Trump's already against NATO. Trump has already said, "I want to pull out of NATO." We've already cut funding to NATO.
Mm-hmm. But he hasn't done that yet.
Okay, question for you, since you brought it up. What countries need to pull out of the UN for the UN to collapse, other than the United States?
Well, I think you'd have Russia,
Yeah, Russia's
China,
on the verge of leaving anyway.
China.
Okay.
You take those three out of the equation.
Mhm.
The UK, they're pussies. They're not going to leave the UN.
No, the
But
UK won't.
you take if you can get France, if you can get Spain, if you can get Italy, if you can get Turkey, those are some big
don't know.
players
I
in the
don't.
UN.
No, look, S2. I don't. I really. I have a lot of problems with Turkey. I mean, being in Pakistan, a lot of people get really pissed off at me when I say, Turkey is not our friend. But Turkey is Muslim Brotherhood. Leave them alone. Let them screw themselves. Let Erdogan
Agree,
screw himself.
agree. But the point is that if you can get you can get all of these big player countries to leave the UN, it collapses on itself. And this is, as I said, leaving the WHO was retribution for COVID-19.
Yep.
Leaving the UN is retribution for the illegal immigration invasion. That's what this is.
Agreed. Agreed. But because I remember Trump saying that, the UN is useless. The UN has not achieved anything. It has not done anything. And outside the UN, he's repeatedly said we should kick them off our soil. They're
Yes,
just
the UN, the UN has, like the CIA, has evolved into something that it was never meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. They're playing their own version of regime change. The UN plays their own version of regime change.
Yep.
But it bugs me. It bugs me. I'm gonna do a little bit of
If my theory is correct, it's fucking brilliant.
it is brilliant, because if you can get out of NATO, you've already gotten out of WHO, if you can get out of NATO, and if you can get out of the UN, the US is no longer the world's policeman anymore. When they can leave these two organizations, they are no longer the world's policeman, and that will leave a lot of money on the table for the US to be able to develop US economy. The question I have is America going to be able to achieve that in the Trump presidency? And I'm really hoping they do. I'm really hoping they do, because I am fed up with the United Nations. Fed up with the United Nations. Useless, waste of money, waste of time, representative delegates that don't need to be there, sexual assaults happening day in and day out. It just that organization needs to go. It literally just needs to go.
Who else was involved with the UN back in the day?
Who wasn't? No, I think your question's wrong. Who wasn't involved with the UN?
No, I have a very specific name that I'm looking for. Think Haiti,
Are you talking Duvalier?
Clintons.
Well, please, if we get into the Clintons, I mean, come on,
The
SG.
name,
That's another rabbit hole that we can get into with the Clintons.
the names are starting to come into focus again for a reason.
It look the Clintons alone. I mean, from the questionable deaths to the private servers to the
Disappearing children.
disappearing children. I think the Clintons alone is a multi-part series that we can do, because
Let me draw another dot. Let me draw another dot connection for you. Okay.
yeah.
There was a huge case that Governor DeWine in Ohio covered up, where there was an adoption agency out of Ohio. I forget what the name of the town was,
Mhm.
but they were funneling kids from Haiti into this adoption agency. And when the authorities got wind of it, DeWine helped to cover it up. And I can't remember the lady's name, but it was a really, really big deal. But Hillary was smack dab in the middle of that with the Clinton Foundation, as
Yep.
well as the UN.
Yep.
They were facilitating moving those kids out of Haiti.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the Haiti
So
scandal.
we go back to the whole Vivek thing.
Yep. Did I lose your audio?
No, I'm still here.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me do some housekeeping.
Go for it.
We have been doing we put a lot of effort into putting intelligence out on different platforms. And outside of our podcast, we have the Guardian membership on our website, and we have our Signal groups. um, we'd really like it if you joined our Guardian group, because you get to what you get is access to 5 private intelligence channels. It's 5 right now. There is another one coming that is going to change the game for everybody in our Guardian group. I'm only going to tease it that way right now because it's not going to launch till Thanksgiving Day. But you get access to 5 private intelligence channels on Signal. You get emergency alerts via the S10 system. You get 37 survival emags that are worth $370. Um, if you were to print out the 37 emags, and that's a lot of ink to run off your printer, but if you were to print out the 37 emags, you would have everything for the fecal matter hitting the oscillating device situation. I've changed it. I'm sorry. I like it better. Fecal matter. I like that one better. You get direct access to our team, and it's $7.99 a month, $74.99 a year. And that gives you 2.5 months free. But we've also launched a new Signal group called Threatwire, which will give you 60 to 90-second videos, breaking news. So you're always informed on what's going on. And right now, until midnight on Friday, we are running again a 20% promotion. But this promotion is only for annual subscriptions. The last promotion we ran was for monthly or for annual subscriptions. This month, this promotion that we're running right now is part of our launch of the Threatwire channel. This is 20% off on annual subscriptions only. The code is TW20. Again, the code is TW20. So when you go to the subscription page, you need to put in the code TW20. That'll give you 20% off your annual subscription. So instead of paying $74.99, you'll end up paying $60 for the entire year. And that's until midnight on Friday. As I said, we've got another a Signal group coming up. We'll be launching that on Thanksgiving Day. It's something that no other podcast channel is doing. It is something that will give you a way to ask things that you want to know that you don't get answered during the show. And it'll give you, what we'll do is what you'll get is a behind the scenes podcast that we'll do specifically for subscribers, that won't be given out, that won't be released publicly to everyone.
It's like a Q&A.
Oh, it's beyond a Q&A. It's again, I don't want to go too far into it right now because we're just teasing right now until we get closer to Thanksgiving Day. Then we'll start talking about what's coming up. But it's a really, really cool thing that we're bringing out there, and it's only for subscribers. And I'm going to make that point again. It's only for subscribers. It will not be made available to the general public. It will only be for our subscribers. And while you're there, go ahead and join Chris's chapter 3 that runs on Sunday evenings. Because we talk about so many heavy topics throughout the week, we figured there needed to be a way for everyone to have a nice laugh before we get into all these heavy topics. So Chris runs a 1-hour show where it's all funny, it's all zany stuff, and it's a good kickoff to what we do on Survival Dispatch throughout the week. So that's all the housekeeping that I need to do. I needed to put that out there because I was holding back, and I wanted to get that out there. S2, I'm gonna bring this up in a different way. What we're seeing right now going on in the U.S., you've got cultural warfare. You've got asymmetric warfare. You've got economic warfare. You have got DEI warfare. How do we reverse all of this? I mean, because it's just getting faster and faster and faster. How do we stop it and how do we reverse it?
We have to start focusing on the next generations. The Gen Z folks have been drawn all in on communism. They've been drawn in all on this social justice bullshit, this climate agenda bullshit. Imagine sitting in a classroom all day long and having a teacher sitting in front of you telling the world's going to end because the world's going to freeze over, the world's going to get too hot, the sun's going to blow up, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
This is how they do it. They've had a captive audience for so long. The first biggest step that needs to be taken is to get rid of all of the unions that have anything to do with government. All of them. The unions, especially the teachers' unions, are what's causing this problem with our kids.
Yeah.
They own the school systems that are in with the Teachers Federation Union, that fat bitch, whatever her name is, Weinstein.
Yeah.
All of their curriculum goes through the Department of Education, and it has to be approved. And that's the way it's supposed to be, but that's not the way it is anymore. The curriculum is now handed down from the Department of Education to the public school systems in the states, and they are given this specific curriculum to teach. And you've got a captive audience of students sitting in classrooms listening to this communist Marxist social justice bullshit. To be honest with you, I took a standpoint on COVID several years ago that COVID was a fucking miracle. And this is why, because parents had no idea what their kids were being taught.
Good point.
Until the kids had to stay home and do their stuff with remote learning. And parents were looking over their shoulders and saying, what in the fuck are you teaching my kids?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it that way, but that's true. That is true.
So this is key. In order to take control of the culture, the teachers' unions have to be abolished.
Yeah.
And there are laws on the books right now that need to be enforced. Number one, no communist can be in our government, period. That's a law that's on the books.
Yes, that's true. That is
they
true.
need to be expelled from government, period. And if there isn't any legislation in place or laws in place in the various states out there that says that, those need to be enacted, because communism needs to be gone. It needs to be punched in the face, shoved back down into the manhole cover, and the door welded shut.
Drop from helicopters. I would drop them from helicopters. Any communists you find in a helicopter and kick them out the door.
I have visions of turkeys from WKRP in Cincinnati all of a sudden.
No, I look. We have again. People are going to get. I'm going to turn this into something else. But we've got a practice here in Pakistan. When we need to coax information out of someone, we take you up in a helicopter and we keep flying around and we keep dangling you out. And if we can't get what we need to know, it's a kick to the chest and down you go. And we no longer have to deal with you anymore. That practice needs to be started in the U.S. with communists and with Marxists. You cannot continue to allow these people to live, because the more they live, the more problems they're going to cause, the more people they infect with that cancer.
And fortunately, they're not procreating, so that's a plus. But yeah, you asked, how do we reverse this? It's not going to happen overnight. We didn't get here overnight. This was a very slow march into our institutions, taking over our institutions. But you can cut it off at its knees. And all it takes is someone in a position of authority to have the balls to do it. Be damned with the political pressure, because this is what communism is. I basically look at communism as terrorism in action.
Yep, true.
Because as long as they can make you afraid of them without any real consequence, then they're going to run roughshod all over you. So this is not going to be something. This is going to take generations to get rid of, unless you can take some of this stuff and cut it off at the knees.
Yeah, but wait, if you would have to start off by wiping out the federal Department of Education that Jimmy Carter created, because that's where this whole problem started from. Then you take out the teachers unions, because all the teachers unions are connected to the Democratic Party. I don't know of a teachers union that supports the Republican Party at all. They're all Democrat.
Of course they are, because academia has been taken over. It's that particular area. It starts at the college level. So you get the kids that graduate after they've been they've had indoctrination light going on in the schools and in the high schools, and then they go on to college, and that's where they become really hardcore
Really
into it.
indoctrinated. Yep, that's when they become
So
really indoctrinated.
yeah, and I also like the idea Laura Mournier says here too: outlaw Communist Party USA,
Yep,
outlaw Democratic Socialists of America, outlaw
yep.
the Revolutionary Socialists of America. Any of these subversive groups. BLM,
Agreed.
I don't give a crap if you have rebranded yourself. We took a move, or at least we thought we took a move to get rid of all of the Confucius Institutes on the college campuses. No, you didn't. You didn't get rid of them at all. They turned around, they went underground, they rebranded themselves, and now they've resurfaced again.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
got to make sure that they are not allowed on college campuses. You have to make sure that your professors and all of your academics are not of that ideology,
yeah,
which means
yeah.
that there has to be some vetting that needs to be done before they
Heavy.
are hired.
Yep. Just out of curiosity, Chris, S2, I remember every morning that we were in school, when school started, we said the Pledge of Allegiance. Do they still say the Pledge of Allegiance?
No,
How long has it
no,
been since they abolished the Pledge of Allegiance in schools?
the 70s.
No way. I mean, I was in school in the 70s and 80s, and we got up every morning and said the Pledge of Allegiance in
It's
class.
it, I remember that the push to get rid of the Pledge of Allegiance in classrooms started back in the mid 70s, because that was right around the time where we had the hostage
Iran
situation
House.
with Iran, and
Yep.
all of a sudden we had all of these politically correct people coming out saying, "Oh, you can't be that way," and then the Pledge of Allegiance is offensive to them, and that was how they started getting the Christian um, theology out of schools as well, because all of a sudden you had radical Muslims that were coming over here saying, I'm offended by you praying, or because the Pledge of Allegiance is a prayer. It's
It is a
that's
prayer.
what it
Yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah,
So
it
they
is a prayer. But
so they
it,
started bitching about that, and then they started their little slow march through the educational institutions to get rid of all of that. Fortunately, there are some other people out there that are reversing this. Let's take Oklahoma, for instance. Um, I believe it's the governor of Oklahoma had signed an executive order putting the Bible back into all of the public schools.
yeah, yeah,
Is that was the very first and only book that was used in education when our country was founded.
yeah. Yeah, because I remember when I was in school, we said the pledge every day. My sister's 7 years younger than me. When she was in school, they didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. And I always asked her, I went, why do you no longer pledge allegiance to the flag? And then when we were in school, we had in our sophomore year in high school, we had to take a civics class. It was required. And then when my sister got to high school, 7 years later, there was no civics class anymore. And I was like, wait a minute, there's something going on. Something is changed.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's why I asked the question, do they say the pledge anymore?
And when was the Department of Education started? Back in the 70s.
Yeah, back during Carter's time. That was
Yeah,
when Department of Education was started.
more dots to be connected there.
Yep. Oh my God. We end up pissing so many people off, S2. I mean,
Uh, I don't give a fuck.
where I'm trying to figure out where we're headed, because I mean we're literally headed not only to the kinetic war with the terrorist attacks, but we are headed to a cultural collapse that is being orchestrated not just by foreigners but by Americans
Inside,
themselves, who have
inside.
decided that it's no longer important to be an American. And this is where my question comes from. I mean, I said this last night on the show. I said, I left the U.S. 20 some years ago and moved to this side of the world. where I've been in Pakistan, I've been in Dubai, I've been in London, but I still call myself an American because those are the values I grew up with. Now I don't see the American values anymore because the insurrection, the infiltration has been so deep and heavy that I don't know where America is headed, and I'm scared to death about coming back because it's not going to be the country I remember, and I'm either going to end up doing a lot of BFEs or I'm going to end up beating a lot of people up because I don't understand where this country has gone.
It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Just
That's for sure. That is for absolutely sure. But at least that gives me opportunity to do what I like to do.
hey, everybody's got to have an outlet, you know.
Yeah, but I'm really hoping, and I don't mean this in a nasty way, but I'm really hoping that the terrorists hold off on their little attack until I get back to the U.S. because I want to play target practice, and I want to do it on the streets of the United States with these terrorists because I don't like what they're doing.
So 420 Cushmaster has a comment in the chat over here. It says USA is over, folks. Get your passports ready. Let me ask you something, 420 Cushmaster. Where the fuck are we going to go?
Yeah, Europe is gone. Where are you going to go? That's the problem. Where are you going to go? There's nowhere to go now. Every country is now either DI, woke, communist,
invaded.
Where are you going to go? My dad made this comment the other day. He said to my mom, America's about to collapse. We're going to find another country to go to. And my mom went, well, are we going to go to Pakistan? And my dad went, no, not Pakistan, but we'll find another country to go to. And I asked the question. I was on the call with both of them. I said, just explain something to me. Where the hell are you going to go? What country is left to move to now? I mean, Europe is gone. You may be able to find pockets in Europe that you can move to, but those pockets only exist for a certain amount of time. It's better that you stay in the US and fight.
I had something that was a very profound thing that happened to me. I was at J6, okay? And at one point I had a group of Taiwanese ladies walk up to me, and I had my Marine Corps jacket on, had my patches on and everything. And they walked up to me and they said, "Can we get a picture taken with you?" I said, "Yeah, why?" They said, and they turned around and they said, "We're so thankful for you because we don't have any place else to go."
Yeah. That's a big thing people need to understand. I mean, people used to be able to escape to the US, but if the US goes to war with itself, then where do you go?
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't thinking.
I think that window has long passed.
Oh yeah. But people are just starting to realize it. That's it's like I brought up earlier, General Flynn talking about terrorist attacks happening in the U.S. in the next 90 days. We've been saying this for 18 months now, and now people are starting to wake up to it, going, yeah, what these quote unquote conspiracy theorists that we've tried to discredit over and over and over and over, they're actually right.
Yeah, I mean, even a broken clock's right twice a day.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, yesterday I was again called a Mossad agent. Someone to my face said it to me. That I pulled a gun on them. I didn't punch them. I said, "You want to say it to me again?" He just kind of backed up. I was like, I don't work for the Mossad. I don't work for the CIA. I don't work for the ISI. I own a private intelligence company, and if you're gonna call me Mossad again, you're gonna be trying to play. You're going to play a game I enjoy very much. Try and outrun the bullet. But
I call it meeting the Jesus.
Well, lead poisoning is a nice way to put it, but I gave him the chance. I said, "Listen, I'm gonna let you walk away this time, but if you ever dare to call me Mossad again, you're gonna play my game, and it's called outrun the bullet. And trust me, I haven't found anyone that can outrun the bullet yet."
Yeah, that's how rumors. That's how shit gets started.
Yeah. And the reason they say it, this is now in Pakistan. Now this is going on. You have got people who are pro government being either called CIA or called ISI, which I take as badges of honor. Um, if you are pro America, you are Mossad, or CIA, which is also a badge of honor. And if you dare talk about Israel in a positive sense, you're definitely Mossad. So I have in the past month, I have been called CIA, ISI, IRGC, and Mossad, and I'm just I'm just going. Are you kidding? Do you not know do you not know how much shit I pile on all these countries that you're calling me an agent of each of these groups?
Yeah, people used to call me a Fed a long time ago. That didn't work out so well for them.
Yeah. In America, it's Fed. For some reason, that's the insult in the U.S. is, oh, you're a Fed. Just
That was the equivalent of calling you a Nazi.
yeah. Yeah, Fed is the Nazi. No, you guys haven't seen what Nazis really look like to understand what Nazis are. But just unreal, just unreal. That's all we've got for you tonight, because this is a rolling topic. This is not something we're going to end up finishing off tonight or tomorrow or whatever. This keeps going and going and going. So we're going to keep this infiltration politics conversation. We'll keep going. Next week we'll come back with something new to discuss. I'm not going to get into the Clintons, and I'm not going to get into the UN just yet. But next week we'll come back with another interesting topic. There's a lot to unpack. The U.S. is in a lot of trouble, and it's in a lot of trouble because of people that have been allowed to move into the United States to infiltrate the U.S. I keep telling people, America needs to have an a deportation policy like what Pakistan does. What you see in Pakistan is that we don't care. We deport you straight away. In the past 6 weeks, past 6 weeks, we've deported 1.5 million Afghanis. 1.5 million Afghanis in 6 weeks. And we are still kicking them out. We are still kicking them out because they need, if you don't belong in our country, or if you're a threat to our country, you're not staying here. And this is part of the problem that we had with the Taliban. When we figured out the Taliban was using their own Afghanis against Pakistan, we said, okay, fine, time for you to go. And a open warning was given to everyone that owns property that if you rent a house or a shop to a business that is owned by an Afghan, the government will seize the house and seize the business. So the U.S. needs to develop a policy like this, because one of the ways to recycle or reverse what is happening in the U.S. right now is to start kicking these people out. And you have the policy. Bill Clinton signed a law back, I think it was 1996, saying that you could deport without putting them in front of an immigration judge. You could deport people from the United States. The Democrats have forgotten that Bill Clinton signed this law into existence. They need to be hammered with that law, that this is what your president did. This is not what our MAGA president did not do this. This is what your president did while he was in the White House.
I think Obama might have undone that.
No, it's still active. I checked. It's still
Okay.
active. It is still active, which is hilarious to me, because you would think Obama would have undone that with all the illegals they moved in the country. But that
he was deporting more illegals than the Clintons did.
But S2, nobody talks about it. This is the problem. If you try and bring this crap up and point it out to the Democrat, oh, no, that didn't happen. Oh, that didn't happen. Or people are just too stupid to bring it up. That if you look at every Democrat president, look at how many people they deported compared to how many Republicans deported. You kicked out more people than we did. And another interesting piece is the temporary amnesty that was existed for Venezuelans in the U.S. has now expired. I think, at midnight last night. the temporary amnesty for Venezuelans that existed has now expired. They need to be kicked out of the country as well.
they just captured 48 TDA in Hawaii, right?
Yep, yep, yep. But you've got TDA, you've got MS-13. You have got to get these people out of the U.S. and I mean out of the U.S. now, before shit goes bad.
So everybody get a pen and paper out, because here comes an S2ism. Tolerance is what got us here. Intolerance is what's going to get us out.
Yep. Very true. Very true. Very true. Web E squared 2. If you're looking for the name of the law, it is on our Command 11 X handle. I posted a screenshot of the date it was signed and the name of the law as well. I can't remember the name of the law right now, but if you go to our X handle, you'll find the name of the law there as well.
It was called Get All Assholes Out Act.
That would have been the best name for the law. Did you see the Mamdani law that was passed that's been tabled?
No, I haven't seen that one.
There is a law that has been tabled in the House of Representatives. I can't remember what the anagram breaks down to, but it's called, when you put the anagram together, it's Mamdani. It's the Mamdani Act, which says that no federal funds can be given to the city of New York.
Senator Kennedy must have wrote that one.
I can't remember who wrote it. It was days after Mamdani was elected as mayor. All of a sudden, this act was put into the hopper in the House of Representatives, and I was like, oh my God, it's like this thing. They already had this thing ready to go.
They probably did.
But it's the infiltration has been too much. It's like you said, S2. The tolerance got you there. It is intolerance and force that's going to reverse this process. And you need to do it before it collapses the U.S. The economy is in trouble. Alex Jones had a group of people on the other day, or was it today, where they were talking about how there is going to be a economic collapse before the terror attacks are. Interesting how things we've been talking about for months are now becoming regular conversation on other people's podcasts. But they were saying that
when you're right all the time.
It's not that we're right, because you've got the order wrong. We said that it would be the terror attack and then the economic collapse. People are saying it's the economic collapse and then the terror attack. But just out of curiosity, what do you think about these 50-year mortgages and this 15-year car loan? I mean,
it's an incredibly stupid idea.
Is this not a repeat of the Fannie Mae?
Well, now I'll say this. If the way I have two different ways of thinking about this, okay? If you have a mortgage that's transferable, that would create generational wealth. So let's say I bought a piece of property and I've paid for it and I will it to my son when I pass away, then it's his and he keeps paying the mortgage and so forth and so on. As long as you keep on paying your property taxes and you're meeting all of the obligations to own that piece of property, then that's your family property, period. That's the only way that I see that this could be a good idea. But yeah, well, hear me out. So if we have a period of prosperity in the United States, which I believe there will be at some point, you do like what I've done for however many years. You pay more if you can, but you can pay the minimum if you want to. But I've always paid more. And that way, if I'm paying more, it gets paid off. It gets paid off faster. So if your family is raised with that kind of financial mindset, then this could be a good idea. But as far as being a single person, if the mortgage is not transferable to another family member, then it's an incredibly stupid idea, because at a 30-year mortgage, you basically have a $200,000 house that you bought that you're going to pay $1 million on. That's just stupid.
Yeah. That's what I when I first heard it, my mind went back to 2008 and Fannie Mae. And
Yeah.
I went, holy shit, we're going back to that again. You're going to see subprime mortgages. You're going to have people that don't have the ability to buy a home getting mortgages and not being able to pay their mortgage payments. And it's going to collapse the financial. We're going to see another financial collapse. And it's going to end up with a lot of people losing their homes again.
Well,
And
and
that
that's
was
this would also be dependent upon having certain rules in place. Back with the Fannie Mae thing, you had predatory lenders that were out there. Actually, it wasn't necessarily the predatory lenders; it was the brokers, the go-betweens in between the buyer and the banks that were giving the actual loans. So the brokers were the ones that were playing some creative accounting with the paperwork.
yeah.
I saw this firsthand because that was back when I bought my house, and it was the same shit that was going on then. But it was the brokers that were playing around with the paperwork. They were not requiring you to get tax returns. You weren't required to have a certain level of income. You didn't have to put any money down. All kinds of this stuff, and that's what caused that collapse.
Yeah.
Because you had a lot of people that under normal circumstances would not have qualified to purchase a home at that point in time, but they allowed it to go on, and they did it on purpose
Well,
because of what it was. It all goes back to another land grab. Because if you defaulted on the loan because you couldn't afford the loan in the first place, then the
yep.
bank comes and takes your house, and then they turn around and they take it for pennies on the dollar. They turn
Yep.
around and they resell it, and they make profit off of it.
Yep.
But instead, the U.S. government decided all of these banks that had funded all of these loans, we'll go ahead and bail them out. Meanwhile, on the back end of the whole thing, they're seizing all of this property and turning and for pennies on the dollar and turning around and reselling it. It's just
Did
another
you
way that the banks have been fucking people for years.
Did you see how much profit the banks generated the year after the bailout happened? I mean, it was just ungodly how much. I literally at that point I turned around. I looked at the U.S. government and went, "Why the fuck do you keep bailing out these banks?" Because they purposely get themselves into these screwed up positions, and you create the subprime crisis. You created these just like you were saying. You created people that could not buy a house, and you gave them not one mortgage, but two mortgages, three mortgages, four mortgages, and said, "Oh, well, they'll come up with the money." And then now you've come up with this other crazy idea that we should allow people to buy cars over 15 years of payments. Who takes a 15-year loan on a car?
Why would you?
Well, if you can't afford it, you shouldn't be buying it. And with a 15-year loan,
nowadays it's not even prevalent that people are buying their cars. You see all of these prices that they advertise all over the place. Listen to the radio. Oh, for $200 down, you can get a car payment of X amount of dollars a month. Well, what they're not telling you is that's a lease, because leases are more prevalent now than actually buying a car.
Yep. That's what I was getting to. I mean, because more people are buying are not. I know very few people that are buying vehicles now. They just go and lease a car, and they're paying and they're paying and they're paying. When they get tired of that car, they take it back to the dealership and say, "Give me another car." And what's my lease payment? And they just keep going. I hate connecting this piece, but we are slowly headed to that. You will not, and no one will own anything now.
Yeah.
And it bugs the hell out of me.
That's why I refuse to buy a new car. Number one, I refuse to buy a new car because they're incredibly overpriced, expensive. Number two, because even if you do buy a new car outright, guess what? You don't really own it.
Nope.
Because the cars are all controlled by proprietary software. You can't work on the cars anymore.
Nope.
And if something goes wrong with them, you have to take them back to the dealership, and the dealership makes more money off of that. And I mean, let's even go back to an even stupider example. Let's call John Deere tractors. You can't repair anything on a John Deere tractor these days because of the proprietary software. If you hang a part on that, it has to be reprogrammed back into that system. You don't own it.
Nope. just oh my God, this is just another rabbit hole to go down. I am again. It's been so long since I've lived in the U.S. that coming back now, I am going. Am I actually gonna be able to own anything? Because I was looking at a building in South Carolina, $7 million to buy the building, and this is a small town in South Carolina. And I was like, $7 million to buy a building for an office. And when I was looking at housing property in that same area, you were looking at $4 or $5 million. I'm like, what in the hell? How is anyone going to be able to afford it? I mean, thankfully, we've earned a lot of money from Command 11. It's not like I'm really concerned about it, but when you're looking at prices like that, I understand why people are taking loans that are so massively huge and defaulting. Because
Well,
when
I
you
also think that there's a certain level of nihilistic thinking going on here too, where the big thing back in the day was, well, I just may as well go ahead and max out my credit cards because we're all fucked anyway.
yeah, yeah, we literally are. We literally are. I don't even want to get into it because we've been looking at buildings and we've been looking at residential places. And when I look at the prices, I'm like, holy shit, I worked how long to earn this money and I'm gonna burn it like this. I mean,
Well, if you come back to the United States, I'll go to work for you. How's that?
well, that's great, but I mean, I've got to have a building someplace to be people to work at.
Hey,
And
you know
I
what? You know what? There's a lot of these big corporations out there that found out that you don't have to have those big buildings.
Yeah, I mean, we've run Command 11 quite well without the building. When we first opened Command 11, we had offices, and then we started getting bomb threats from terrorists, and then we went, we shouldn't have offices,
You
and
should
we
be
decentralized.
you should be decentralized. So it's just what I was going to say.
We decentralized everybody. Now nobody knows where anybody is, except for top tier management. We only know where all of our staff is. Everybody else has been moved into different locations, and we said, listen. Um, don't even mention you work for Command 11, otherwise you will end up being threatened and you'll have people following you, and just stay away from telling people who you work for, because you'll have just all kinds of problems. But that brings us to our hero of the day. Nick, you want to go ahead and run the carnival video for us? So, in a world full of people glued to their phones, this wheelchair-bound hero restored faith in humanity by letting a pregnant woman take his seat. It's a beautiful video. Uh, Go ahead and play.
You don't have to be the bad guy. You are the most talented, most interesting, and most extraordinary person in the universe. And you are capable of amazing things because you are the special. And so am I. And so is everyone. The prophecy is made up, but it's also true. It's about all of us. Right now, it's about you. And you still can change everything.
I bet that dude rethinks his choices of cars for carrying oranges.
Yeah, that's for sure. But did you notice on the subway how not one stinking animal got up to give a seat to that pregnant lady, except for the guy in the wheelchair? I mean, isn't that just absolutely just isn't that just an absolute indictment of the U.S. society now, when everybody was just sitting around going, "That's okay for the pregnant lady to stand, but we're going to sit on our fat asses and just leave her alone."
It's not just the U.S. That's everywhere. The
It is.
apathy that is out there it's the spirit of things.
It's just I just don't get it. I again, S2, I say it again. I don't know what kind of an America I'm coming back to. I mean, either I'm gonna end up in having to live a life underground because of the number of people I'm going to have to kill, just to fix some of the problems in the US, or I'm just gonna get fed up and just go nuts and just start going, okay, screw it. I'm just going openly after everybody. I'm gonna become a vigilante and clean up the US, because I I've gotten to the point where I just I don't recognize the country anymore. I've every year when I come back, the country becomes more and more unrecognizable for me as to where the America I grew up in and the America that exists now. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
Welcome to our world.
Well, I'll be home soon. I'll be home soon, and
We'll start the Command 11 bail fund. How's that?
there we go. The bail fund. Yeah, there we go. Nick, if you want to put up our submitted story of the day. Yeah, this one I didn't get. Beloved Long Island veteran killed by stolen car just moments after visiting granddaughter at school. How do you get killed by a stolen car? I mean, don't you usually get killed by? Don't you really just? Why didn't they mention the driver and they said the car was stolen? I mean, I still don't understand what in the fuck is happening with the legacy media. I mean, where are you coming from? Where are you coming from to say he was killed by a stolen car instead of killed by a black driver? S2?
Things are definitely baffling.
Did you see? Oh my God, I forgot about. Did you see the number of people that were people of color that were arrested and listed as white people?
That's been going on in North Carolina for quite some time.
Just
Uh,
unbelievable.
It's why all of the numbers are skewed now as far as black on black crime, white on or black on white crime. The numbers are completely upside down now because of that. And it some of them, what they've been doing is they'll actually go ahead and book them as their regular ethnicity, and
Mhm.
then they'll turn around and they'll change the record later on.
Just
We've seen
unbelievable.
cases of that happening in North Carolina where they've been doing it on purpose.
It's just cooking the books. I mean, it's nothing else but cooking the books.
Yeah. And you have to ask yourself when you see that, to what end?
Yeah. What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove by doing this crap? But just I I remember back in when I was in the US, Detroit police used to do this all the time. They would not list everyone as a colored person, um, so that they could keep their crime numbers down. And this exists in every metropolitan city. It's not just Detroit, but we would always ask people. I mean, I was good friends with the chief of police, and I would always ask them, why do you do this? He's like, well, if we can keep the race out of it, we get more money in
Hmm.
funding for the police. And I went, oh my God, this is,
All about the Benjamins.
yep, all about the Benjamins, all about the Benjamins. S2, you want to throw up the conflicted question?
Yeah, here we go. All right, everybody. So I want to see some thumbs up and some smashed like buttons and all this other good stuff. And here we go. Bishop Sorensen aided a man in need, bringing him into his home and caring for his wounds, feeding and clothing him for an extended period of time. How likely are you to spend your time and supplies on helping a complete stranger? What precautions would you take?
I wouldn't help a complete stranger. I'm sorry. That's just asking for trouble. Someone I know, yeah, I would help out, but it would only be to a certain extent. Place to stay for a little time, for maybe a week to a few days. Helping them out, getting them on their feet. I would help them out with that. But again, somebody I know. Complete stranger, not a chance. Not a freaking chance.
Yeah. So, little story about that. I told this story out on X last week. My empathy for people kind of went downhill about 20 so years ago. when I had a homeless man that was standing out on the street, and I offered him a sandwich, and he basically said, "Fuck you! I don't want your sandwich. I want money."
What the
And and then started to approach my car, and I said, "That's going to be a really bad day for you."
Yeah.
And fortunately, I was in my car, but I drove away. So sometimes helping a complete stranger can turn out right, but most times, unfortunately, these days it turns out wrong. And I think it depends on the kind of help that you're offering.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation like the conflicted decks are all about shit's already hit the fan, blah blah blah.
Yep.
So in those kinds of situations, you know that people are going to be desperate for things. So helping people in that kind of a situation can be a bad idea because it gives away what you have, it gives
Yep.
away where you have it.
Yep.
And having them in your house, well, you have to sleep sometime,
Yeah.
and unless you have a large group of people in your mag that's watching your place while you're sleeping. So unfortunately, helping a stranger in that situation, I might do it if the hairs on the back of my neck don't stand up, but only on a very limited basis
Yeah.
of where I keep. This has been one of my preps is I keep what I call distraction food. And that means that I have caches all over the place of things, but I keep distraction food. So if somebody ever came, like if the government ever came to my door or something like that, and they said, "Give us all your food," I say, "Okay, here you go. There's my
Yeah.
distraction food."
Yeah.
And it's mostly expired foods and things like that. So just it's an appeasement. Most of the canned foods are probably still good.
Okay.
But once again, I would help them on a limited basis, and I would certainly not lead them back to my home base.
No, no way. I mean, I'll give you an example here in Pakistan. I mean, before you could give somebody some change, and they would take it happily. Now it's gotten to the point where if you even give them, a couple bucks, they throw it back at you and go, "No, give me a 5, give me a 10, give me a 20." You've got beggars demanding what they should be given. I berated one the other day. The guy comes up to me and says, "There's no food in my house, and can you help me out?" And I said, "Okay, well, what I can do is I can buy you a bag of flour, and you can take that home to your family." I went into the store with him, bought him a bag of flour. I watched him walk away, and I followed him to see where he was going to go. Walked into another grocery store and sold that fucking bag of flour to get the
Yep.
cash. So I
Yep.
walked up behind him and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "You know what? You can hand that money back over to me, or I can take it from you by force. Because you said you didn't have any food. I bought you flour. That was easily, for a family of 4, that was 2-3 weeks of food. And you went and sold it. So you can either give me the money or I can take it from you by force. Your choice." He handed the cash over because he realized that I was not joking about, taking it from him. That was the last time I will help a beggar. That is
That,
that was that was my line. I went, "Screw it. That's it. I'm not helping people anymore."
well, conversely, it doesn't always turn out bad. I did have a situation where there was a man and a wife that were standing out on the street, and he was holding up a sign that said he was a vet. So I stopped and I sat down and I talked with him for a while, and I basically vetted the situation. He was indeed a vet, and unfortunately, he was a drunk, and his wife clearly was a crack addict. But I went down the street to Wendy's and I bought a couple sacks of hamburgers and drinks, and I brought it back there and I sat down and I talked with him for a while we ate a meal together.
Right.
And after that, I got up and left.
But we do this. We do charity giving in my home village, and in the city I live in. But those are properly vetted people. I mean, I've had my guys go out and check where they live, check what their income level is, check how many people are in their families, and we give based on how many people are in their family. So it's during the month of Ramadan that we give, because people are fasting anyway. So we don't want people to go hungry while they're fasting. So we give flour, we give lentils, we give oil, eggs, tea, sugar, stuff like that. But those are all vetted people. I usually don't give to the street beggar. I usually don't, because I've had so many problems with street beggars that I have stopped that practice. And this guy he was really old, white beard, came up and he had tears in his eyes. I was like, I can't say no. If you need flour, fine, I'll buy you flour.
Yeah,
But
they're really good at their acting games,
oh yeah,
and I've been in the same situation where, and the first telltale sign of it is when they're drunk, or it's obvious that they've been drunk and
yeah,
just looking to get another bottle. It's like, yeah, no, not doing it.
yeah. Here we don't have the drunks. Here we have the drug addicts. Either it's hashish, or it's heroin, or it's opium, or it's one of those drugs.
Yeah, well,
And I've gotten too much. I've gotten too hardened to this stuff now to bother to help them out anymore.
yeah, my previous location, they were actually importing addicts in from other states. They were doing it on purpose.
We have
They
the
were
same
br
problem.
they were bringing them in by busloads, and they were infesting the area and just tearing everything up. You'd go by a piece of vacant land in between the interstates here, and they would
Yep,
set up these camps there.
yep,
And the police would come in there, and they'd get everything out, put it in a dumpster, haul it off. They'd go across the street and do the same thing, mostly because they had tree cover in these areas. Well, the city got smart and they went in there and they just wood chipped everything down. There
yeah.
wasn't any cover for them there anymore.
Now
There's a
you
still a
have.
few, there's still a few of them still hanging around up there. Last time I was up there, but by and large, they're not visible anymore.
No, it's just getting it's turned into a business in Pakistan. I mean, begging is now an actual business. If you go to any of the tourist areas in Pakistan, oh my God, you will find people from all over the country that are in a tourist area going, "Well, we know you guys give, so help us out, help us out." And I have a great interview process I do with these. Once I realize you're not from the area that I'm in, then I start playing games. I start asking questions that you don't want me asking.
Yeah.
Um, but that wraps up tonight. Reminder for all of our viewers, um, we run the Guardian program on our website, and it's a great thing to get involved in. Not only do you get access to our 5 intelligence channels, you get access to the Eston alert system, which in the state we're in right now, it's a good idea to be part of that alert system. You get the 37 emags. And like I said before, if you print all of those out, you have everything you need for when the fecal matter hits. And you get direct access to our team. We'll give you behind the scenes content. You'll get regular daily sit reps that are posted on our website. Difference between our sit reps on the website: if you're not a Guardian member, you don't see the sources that come with all of our sit reps. But if you're a Guardian member, you can see where we developed all the sit reps from. You get early access to the videos, the content that we've generated. We generate at Survival Dispatch before it goes live on the YouTube channel. Now, usually this runs you $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year. That's with 2.5 months free if you pay annually. But as part of our launch for ThreatWire, which is our new signal group, which is 60 to 90 second videos, which keep you in the know on breaking news. We are running until midnight on Friday a special promotion that is 20% off the annual subscription, not the monthly subscription, the annual subscription. But you need to make sure you use the code TW20. So the $74.99 subscription price will end up being $60 a year. And this is only running until midnight Friday. On Thanksgiving Day, we'll give you a new well, it'll start off as a signal channel, but once we launch it, you'll understand that it'll be a lot more than just a signal channel. You'll be able to ask a lot of questions that you don't get answers to during the shows. and inside of the Guardian groups that we already have running.
So I'm going to wake up on another planet again one day.
No, you're not. You're not going to wake up on another planet. It's something that's going to give our paying subscribers access to something that's really it's going to really help them to get more information from us. So it's a benefit for our subscribers because we like to give the paying subscribers the value addition, and this is a value addition that no other podcast gives. And it's something that Chris and I really talked about, and we thought this was a good way to go, because we see a lot of questions roll through on the live chat that people want answers to questions, but because the way the chat is running, we're not able to run every question through the show. So we'll talk more about that, but it's a teaser right now. Thanksgiving Day is when we'll launch it. While you're on the survivaldispatch.news website, go ahead and join Heaven's Report, where Chris is running on Sunday nights. He runs chapter 3, which is all zany videos. Chris says that he did this back a long time ago, where he would do zany videos so that people, would get
we
a
used
good
to do it. We used to do it during the show at the end.
Used to do it during the show. Okay. All right. So he's moved that out to now a channel of its own. It's on See Heaven at substack.com. But it's on the survivaldispatch.news website. Also, thank you, and a shout out to our main sponsor, who is Carnival. Carnival is probably hands down one of the best products you can get for prepping. You need to keep this in mind, that when you buy meat, you're not getting the best quality. But Carnival is all American. It is pure beef, grass fed, and grass finished. And if you use our code Eat Meat, you get, I think it's 10% off on your order. And if you spend over $100, you get free shipping on your order. And
As long
I'm
as it's
still
not in
waiting.
Pakistan.
Huh?
As long as it's not in Pakistan.
Well, Dean still, Dean still has been saying, we're going to send you a care package. I'm still waiting because I've heard so much about Carnival and how great it tastes, and I really want to try it out now because it's gotten me to the point where I really want to know what this tastes like. And to be honest, S2, I have not had a good steak in I don't know how long, because all the steak that you get in the Middle East, it's not steak, it's beef that you've got to cut and cut and cut and get it down to a steak format. And because a lot of people here it's small pieces that they're cooking, they don't understand that there is a concept of a steak. And when I was in England, oh my God, those weren't steaks. That was just a joke for a steak. So I'm waiting and hoping that Dean sends me that care package soon so I can try out the Carnival meat, because I've heard so much about it from Mike Glover and Chris and Randy, and everyone has talked about it. And now I'm to the point where I really want to give it a taste. So for me and S2, that is the end for the end of our program for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night again with the next part in our Long War series, which is Alliances and Confederations. Normal time, 7 p.m. like every night, because YouTube is not sending notifications out. And if you're a Survival Dispatch subscriber, whether it be free or otherwise, and even if you're not going to become a paid subscriber, we'd love to have you join it as a free subscriber, because then you at least get updates of what's going on. You get our situation reps. I think that covers everything for tonight. Again, happy Veterans Day to all of our men and women who served in the many conflicts that America has been in. Defending this nation is the greatest service that you can give for the country. And with that, we are done, and God bless America.
Hoorah.
Vodka whiskey's gonna ease my mind. Beach towel rests on the drying line. Do I remind you of your daddy in his 88 Ford? Labrador hanging out the passenger door. Sand from your hair is blowing in my eyes. Blame it on the beach, grown man, don't cry. Do you remember that beat down basement couch? I'd sing you my love songs and you tell me about how your mama ran off in Monterey. I remember everything. What's under it closing time? You were begging me to stay till the sun rose. Strange words come on out of a grown man's mouth when his mind's grown. Pictures of passing time, you only smile like that when you're drinking. Which I did, but I do. Remember every moment on the night with you.
You're drinking anything, ease your mind. But I'm gonna ease mine. You like concrete beat, summer. It burns like hell when two souls meet. No, you'll never be the man that you always want. But I'll remember you in that day before. Close shoulder, close down. We're back and close till the sun goes. Strange words come on out of a grown man's mouth when his mind's cold. Pictures and thoughts and time, you always smile like that when you dream. I wish I did, but I do. Remember every moment on the night. Cold shoulder, closing down. You were begging me to stay till the sun rose. Strange words come on out of a grown man's mouth when his mind's cold. Pictures and passing time, you always smile like that when you're drinking.
I wish I did, but I do.
Remember every moment on the night too.
Vodka whiskey's gonna ease my mind. Beach towel rests on the dry line. Do I remind you of your daddy in my 88 Ford? Labrador hanging out the passenger door.